Hi, once again welcome back to Obstetrics and Gynecology videos. Today we are going to see about an important topic, that is abortion. Already we have seen about the hydatidiform mole or molar pregnancy and ectopic pregnancy in the previous videos. And I have told you that these two are the causes for bleeding in early pregnancy. But the major cause for the bleeding in early pregnancy is abortion that we are going to see today. So altogether, the causes for the bleeding in early pregnancy include mainly three factors: abortion, ectopic pregnancy, and molar pregnancy. Abortion is the expulsion or extraction of an embryo or fetus weighing 500 grams or less from its mother when it is not capable of independent survival, that is, before the period of viability. That is expulsion of the fetus before the period of viability or before the fetus is weighing 500 grams from its mother, that we are calling as abortion. And in India, the legal abortion is permitted only up to 20th week of pregnancy. The incidence is 10 to 20% of all clinical pregnancies, and 75% abortions occur before 16th week, and the rates of abortion vary with the maternal age, and it is high in women those who are having the history of past abortions or past miscarriages. This abortion can be classified into spontaneous and induced. Induced abortion can be a medical termination of pregnancy, or it can be an illegal abortion. And the spontaneous abortion can be an isolated one or maybe a recurrent one. Recurrent one means in the subsequent pregnancy also there is a chance for recurrence. And isolated one is again classified into threatened, inevitable, complete, incomplete, missed, and septic abortions. Now let us see the causes for the abortion. The main causes are fetal factors and the maternal factors. The fetal factors include genetic factors of the baby of the fetus, that is 50% of the early miscarriages are due to the chromosomal abnormalities of the fetus. It may be a trisomy or polyploidy or monosomy, or structural defects of the chromosomes like translocation, deletion, and inversion. And another cause is multiple pregnancy, degeneration of the chorionic villi. And the maternal factors include endocrine and metabolic factors, and it contributes to the 10 to 15% of the abortions. And this include luteal phase defects, thyroid abnormalities of the mother, and diabetes mellitus. And anatomical abnormalities contributes to 10 to 15% of the abortion. These include cervicouterine factors, that is cervical incompetence or insufficiency, that is the cervix will start to dilate during the pregnancy and the baby will get expelled. And congenital malformations of the uterus, uterine fibroid, intrauterine adhesions. And another main cause that contributes to the 5% of the abortions, it includes the infections. This can be a viral infection, or can be a parasitic infection, or can be a bacterial infection. The viral infections example include rubella, cytomegalovirus, and HIV. And parasitic infections include toxoplasma and malaria. Bacterial infections that may contribute in abortion mainly include ureaplasma and chlamydia. Another 5 to 10% cause for abortion is immunological factors, that is autoimmune disease, alloimmune disease, and anti-fetal antibodies. That is, inside the maternal body, certain antibodies will produce against the fetus. The body will start to react against the baby and the baby will get expelled. And another one is environmental factors that includes cigarette smoking, alcohol consumption, and use of contraceptive agents. And another one, maternal and medical illnesses of the mother, that includes the cyanotic heart diseases, hemoglobinopathies. And other than this, actually 40 to 60% of the abortion causes are unknown, and in majority the exact, and that contributes to the 40 to 60% of the abortion. The exact cause will be unknown. Now we are going to see about the type of abortion. In the previous classification, we have seen that the spontaneous abortion can be an isolated one or a recurrent one. This isolated one is again classified into threatened abortion, inevitable abortion, complete, incomplete. So first we are going to read about these isolated abortion classifications. First one is threatened abortion. That is a condition in which miscarriage has started but has not progressed to a stage from which recovery is impossible. That is, the lady will be having the signs of abortion, or you will be able to see the signs of abortion, but the baby will be alive, and you will be able to, or you will get a chance to help further, or if you are taking adequate measures, you can make the baby to survive. The clinical features include amenorrhea will be there, and the patient will be having the complaints of slight bleeding per vagina, and pain will be there, and sometimes it may be painless also, and there may be mild backache or dull pain in the lower abdomen, and the uterus and cervix will be soft. And if you're doing the digital examination, you can see the cervix will be, that is, internal loss of the cervix will be closed, and the external loss also will be closed. And differential diagnosis includes cervical ectopy, polyps or carcinoma, ectopic pregnancy, and molar pregnancy. And ultrasonographic examination will help you to confirm the diagnosis. So this picture shows the threatened miscarriage, and the management include, you have to give rest for the patient. Patient should be in bed for few days until the bleeding stops, and if the patient is having pain, you can give diazepam 5 mg BD. And 80% of the pregnancies with threatened abortions will get continue up to term if you are giving proper support. If a live fetus is seen in the ultrasonography, pregnancy is likely to continue in 95% of the cases. If pregnancy continues, there is a chance for preterm labor. Sometimes the lady may be having placenta previa, and there is a chance for intrauterine growth retardation also. Next one is inevitable abortion. It's a type of abortion where the changes has progressed to a stage from where continuation of pregnancy is impossible. That is, the abortion process has started, and even if you are taking the treatment, or even if you are giving the rest or proper support also, the continuation of pregnancy won't be possible. That is inevitable abortion. The clinical features of inevitable abortion include, the patient will be having the features of threatened miscarriage. That is, vaginal bleeding will be there, and abdominal pain will be aggravated. When comparing to the threatened abortion, it will be more, and colicky pain will be there in the lower abdomen. And sometimes the features may develop quickly without prior clinical evidences of threatened miscarriage. And if you are doing the internal examination, you can see the dilated internal loss, and sometimes the product of conception also you may be able to feel at the level of the internal loss. So this picture shows the inevitable miscarriage. Some of the products are coming up to the level of internal loss, you can see in the picture. And the management includes, actually the aim of management is accelerate the process of expulsion and maintain strict asepsis. If the pregnancy is less than 12 weeks, you can go for the suction evacuation, and if the pregnancy is beyond 12 weeks, expulsion by oxytocin infusion. You can give oxytocin and you can expel the products by producing the uterine contractions by the use of oxytocin. And the general measures include, if bleeding is there, you can give methogen 0.2 mg in order to stop the bleeding, and the blood loss should be corrected by the IV fluid therapy, and blood transfusion also should be given if severe blood loss is there. Next is incomplete abortion. That is, the process of abortion has already taken place, but the entire products of conception are not expelled, and a part of it is left inside the uterine cavity. That is, already the abortion has occurred, but the complete products of conception has not come out of the uterus. A part of the products, sometimes bits of the membranes or placenta, or sometimes parts of the fetus may remain inside the uterine cavity itself. And the clinical features include, the lady will be having the history of expulsion of a fleshy mass per vaginum, and continuation of pain will be there in the lower abdomen, vaginal bleeding will be there, and if you're doing the internal examination, the uterus will be smaller than the period of amenorrhea, and the internal os will be open, that is the cervix will be dilated, and vaginal bleeding will be there. And on examination, the expelled mass, if you are observing the expelled mass, you can see that it may not be complete, it will be incomplete. The complications of this include these retained products. If it is remaining inside the uterus, there is a chance for bleeding, there is a chance for sepsis, and sometimes there is a chance for developing placental polyps also. So this picture shows the incomplete abortion. Almost all the products of conception came out, but only bits of membrane is remaining still inside the uterus. You can see this. And the management, evacuate the retained products of conception. That's the main objective of the management in this case. And in the case of early abortion, that is if it is less than 12 weeks, you can do the dilatation and evacuation after giving analgesics. Otherwise, you can give the general anesthesia if it is needed. And in the case of late abortion, the uterus should be evacuated under the general anesthesia, and the products can be removed by ovum forceps or by blunt curette. In late cases, dilatation and curettage is to be done to remove the bits of tissue left behind. That is, if it is a late abortion, that is if the pregnancy is beyond 12th week, in that case you have to perform the D&C in order to make sure that all the products of conception has removed. And prophylactic antibiotics also should be given in order to prevent the infection, and the removed materials are subjected to histological examination. And you can give misoprostol 200 microgram vaginally for 4 hours for ensuring the uterine contractions and for expelling the complete products. And next one is complete abortion. That is when the products of conception are completely expelled from the uterus, it is called complete miscarriage. The clinical features, there is a history of expulsion of fleshy mass from the vagina, and after this expulsion, abdominal pain will subside and vaginal bleeding also will become less, or it may be trace or absent. And if you are performing the vaginal examination, uterus will be smaller than the period of amenorrhea, and sometimes the cervical os may be closed after the expulsion, and the bleeding will be minimum or trace. And if you are performing the transvaginal sonography, you can confirm that the uterus is empty. And next one is missed abortion. The fetus is dead and retained passively inside the uterus for a variable period. It is diagnosed when there is a fetus with a crown drum length of 5 mm without fetal heart. The clinical features, usually the presents with the features of threatened miscarriage, there is pain and slight bleeding will be there, and subsidence of pregnancy symptoms. Uterus will become smaller than the size of gestation, cervix will be firm, and the internal os will be closed, and non-audibility of the fetal heart sound even with Doppler ultrasound, and immunological test, if you are performing for the pregnancy, it will become negative. The complications include, if the retained products are remaining inside the uterus, there is a chance for infection, and there is a chance for disseminated intravascular coagulation. That is, if the pregnancy is beyond 16th week, in that case there is a chance for disseminated intravascular coagulation. And the management, if the uterus is less than 12 weeks, give prostaglandin E1, that is misoprostol 800 milligram, and transvaginally if you are giving, usually the cervix will get dilated and the products of conception will get expelled, and it should be repeated after 24 hours if needed, and usually expulsion will occur within 48 hours. And suction evacuation is done when the medical method fails. If the prostaglandin fails, you can go for the suction evacuation. And if the uterus is more than 12 weeks, that is between 6 to 12 weeks, 6 to 12 hourly, misoprostol tablets given vaginally. And if this fails, you can go for the extra amniotic instillation of ethacridine lactate, and you should give antibiotics also. Next one is septic abortion. Any abortion associated with the clinical evidences of infection of the uterus and its contents is called a septic abortion. And the most common cause, attempt at induced abortion by an untrained person without the use of aseptic precautions. That is, you can see it mainly in the case of illegal abortions. If an untrained die or local people dies are trying to induce abortion, you can see the septic abortion. And the clinical grading, it is graded into grade 1, 2 and 3. That is, if the infection is localized only to the uterus, it is known as grade 1. And if the infection spreads beyond the uterus to the parametrium, tubes, fallopian tubes and ovaries and to the pelvic area, that is to the pelvic peritoneum, it is grade 2. And if there is generalized peritonitis and enterotoxic shock or jaundice or acute renal failure, it is known as grade 3. That is, if systemic infection is there, that is grade 3. And grade 1 is the most commonest one and is usually associated with spontaneous abortion also. The clinical features of septic abortion include fever, abdominal pain, vomiting and diarrhea. And the pulse rate will be between 100 to 120 per minute. And if pulse rate is increasing and pyrexia is associated with that, it indicates a spread of infection beyond the uterus. And examination of the abdomen and pelvic areas shows abdominal tenderness, guarding and rigidity. An internal examination reveals offensive purulent vaginal discharges and tender uterus, usually patulous or bogey feel will be there, and soft cervix with the open internal also will be there. And the investigations, you can take the complete blood count, serum urea, creatinine, electrolytes, and you have to take the vaginal swab and you have to send it for the culture in order to identify the microorganism. And blood culture should be done in order to identify whether septicemia is there or not. And pelvic ultrasonography will help to detect retained products of conception is there inside the uterus is there or not. And X-ray abdomen if you are suspecting bowel injury, and chest X-ray if there is difficulty in respiration also should be done. The complications of septic abortion include hemorrhage. There is a chance for injury to the uterus and adjacent structures, and there is a chance of spread of infection, and that may produce the generalized peritonitis. Chance for shock, especially if the microorganism which is producing infection is E. coli, and there is a chance for disseminated intravascular coagulation. Chance for renal failure is there, and chance for thrombophlebitis is there. Finally, these complications may leads to the death of the mother also. And the management, in the case of mild cases, we can give broad spectrum antibiotics, and if products of conception is remaining inside the uterus, the products should be evacuated. In the severe cases, we should start IV infusion with crystalloid, and if respiratory distress is there, means you have to give oxygenation, and broad spectrum antibiotics should be given. That is, we can give combination of ampicillin, gentamicin, metronidazole, all those things. And if products of conception is there, in that case also you have to evacuate in 4 to 6 hours after of commencing therapy. Next type of abortion is recurrent miscarriage or recurrent pregnancy loss. Recurrent miscarriage is defined as sequence of 3 or more consecutive spontaneous abortion. It is seen in 1% of all women, and the risk increases with the successive abortions, and the underlying cause is not found in 50% of the recurrent pregnancy loss. The causes for the first trimester abortion mainly include genetic factors, that is parental chromosomal abnormalities. The most common abnormality is balanced translocation. This leads to unbalanced translocation in the fetus, and it is causing early miscarriage of or live birth with congenital malformations. The risk of miscarriage in couples with balanced translocation is more than 25%, and this is the most common cause for the first trimester loss. And another reason is endocrine and metabolic disorders, poorly controlled diabetes, presence of thyroid autoantibodies, luteal phase defect, hypersecretion of the luteinizing hormone. All these things also may contribute to the first trimester abortion. And next is infection of the genital tract. That is the infections which are having the capacity to cross the placenta. So this will cross the placenta and it will reach the fetus and it may produce the abortion. And syphilis. Syphilis is also an example that may produce the abortion. And inherited thrombophilia, that is protein C deficiency, protein S deficiency, factor 5, Leiden mutation, prothrombin gene mutation, all those things may produce the first trimester abortion. And another one is immunological causes, autoimmunity and alloimmune factors. That is, antiphospholipid antibody syndrome produce 15% of the abortion. Antiphospholipid antibodies present in the mother and produce adverse fetal outcome. And the diagnosis can be done by detecting the presence of lupus anticoagulant, that is IgG or IgM anticardiopin antibodies. If you are able to detect these antibodies, you can suspect the autoimmunity. Then alloimmune factors, immune response against parental antigens in the fetus. That is, in the maternal body, certain antigens will produce against the parental factors of the fetus and it will leads to the expulsion or abortion of the baby. Next is second trimester miscarriage. That is, anatomic abnormalities are the major factor which are leading to the second trimester abnormalities, and it may be a congenital or an acquired one. Congenital defects include Mullerian duct fusion, that is unicornate uterus, bicornate uterus, septate or double uterus, and acquired include intrauterine adhesions, uterine fibroids and endometriosis, cervical incompetence. The uterine causes includes, already I told you, that defects in the Mullerian fusion, that is it may produce a double uterus, septate or bicornate uterus, and about 12, and this is the reason for about 12% of the recurrent abortion. And implantation will occur in the septum and that leads to the defective placentation. And another one is Asherman syndrome, intrauterine adhesions due to previous miscarriage, and that can lead to early miscarriage, early abortion. Transvaginal ultrasound can diagnose the Asherman syndrome, and hysteroscopic resection for septum or division of adhesions in the case of Asherman syndrome we can do as a management. And in the case of submucous mucous fibroids, if this is the reason for the abortion, we can remove it by the myomectomy. So this picture shows the septate uterus and double uterus. This is an image X-ray which is showing the septate and bicornate uterus. Next is cervical incompetency or cervical insufficiency. It is painless cervical dilatation with ballooning of the amniotic sac into the vagina, followed by the rupture of the membrane and expulsion of the fetus. And usually it occurs between 16 to 24 weeks of pregnancy. That is, the cervix will get dilated without uterine contractions and without pain. The cervix will get dilated and the fetal membranes will enter into this dilated cervix, and later it will leads to the rupture of the membranes and the fetus also will get expelled from the uterus. And the causes for the cervical incompetence include congenital and acquired factors. Congenital, that is from birth itself, sometimes developmental weakness of the cervix will be there, otherwise uterine anomalies will be there. And acquired include previous D&C operations, induced abortion by dilatation and evacuation, vaginal operative delivery through the undilated cervix, amputation of the cervix, or corn biopsy of the cervix. If the mother is having such histories, there is a chance for cervical incompetence. And multiple gestations and preterm birth, all those things are also a cause for the cervical incompetence. And the diagnosis, you can take the history, and in the history, if there is a repeated mid-trimester painless cervical dilatation, and if there is a history of escape of amniotic fluid followed by the expulsion of the products of conception, if such a history is there, means you can suspect the cervical incompetence. And in the internal examination, that is when you are doing the vaginal examination, if you are able to pass 6 to 8 size Hegar's dilator into the internal os without pain and resistance, it shows the dilatation of the cervix. And when you are performing the hysterosalpingography, we can observe the funneling of the internal os. So this also will help for the diagnosis. And during the pregnancy, if you are performing the vaginal examination, painless cervical shortening and dilatation will be there. That is, effacement of the cervix and dilatation of the cervix will be there, and the mother won't be having the pain. And in the ultrasonography, you can see that size of the cervix will be less than 25 millimeter, and funneling of the internal os also will be there, and it will be dilated more than 1 centimeter. And the management includes surgical management, that is cervical circlage procedure. Usually we are doing it between 12 to 14 weeks of pregnancy, and this procedure reinforces the weak cervix by non-absorbable tape which are placed around the cervix at the level of the internal os. So this picture shows the normal, first picture shows the normal cervix which is not dilated, and the second picture shows the incompetent cervical incompetency. Here this blue colored one are the fetal membrane, it is entered into the cervix. And this is the procedure which is showing the surgical repairment of the cervical incompetence. We have done the circlage operation. And the contraindications for the cervical circlage operation include if the mother is having intrauterine infections, or if the membranes are ruptured already, if the mother is having history of vaginal bleeding, and if there is severe uterine irritability, and if there is cervical dilatation of more than 4 centimeter. In those cases, we are not supposed to go for the cervical circlage operation. And the main two methods or two types of procedure we are doing, that is McDonald's and modified Shirodkar. And if you are performing it, the success rate of pregnancy is 80 to 90%. In the McDonald's operation, the non-absorbable suture material, that is commonly we are using the muslin, is placed as a pursing suture as high as possible at the level of the internal os. The suture starts at the anterior wall of the cervix. Taking successive deep bites, it is carried around the lateral and posterior walls and back to the anterior wall again, where and at the base of the anterior wall, the two ends of the suture will be tied together. And commonly, this is the commonly performing method for the cervical circlage procedure. And this picture shows the cervical circlage operation. So this is the way we are putting the knot. From this anterior portion we will start, and we will go to the posterior, and again we will come back to the anterior aspect, and there we will put the knot. Next is modified Shirodkar circlage, that is a transverse incision is made on the vaginal wall, and the bladder is pushed upward to expose the level of the internal os, and by using the non-absorbable suture material, same muslin tape is using here also, is passed submucosally with the help of a curved round bodied needle so as to bring the suture ends to the posterior side. The ends of the tape are tied up posteriorly by a knot. Here it is tying at the posterior part. The anterior incision is repaired by using the chromic cat. So this picture shows the modified Shirodkar procedure. And another one is the transabdominal circlage, but nowadays we are not doing it actually. It's a rare one, and it is there is a chance for repeated failure for this approach. Actually, we are performing the circlage at the level of the isthmus, and delivery we will be doing through the cesarean section. And the postoperative care, the patient should be in the bed for at least 2 to 3 days, and progesterone supplementation should be given for the mother. Weekly injection of 17 alpha hydroxy progesterone corporate 500 milligram IM should be given to the mother, and the patient should be advised to avoid the sexual intercourse. And the removal of the stitch we are doing either at 37th week, or if the mother is getting the signs of abortion, or if the mother is getting the labor pain, in that case we can go for the removal of the stitch. And if you are not removing the stitch after the onset of the signs of labor, there is a chance for rupture of the uterus. And the complications of this include, there is a chance for slipping or cutting off through the suture, chance for chorioamnionitis is there, chance for rupture of the membrane is there, and there is a chance for cervical scarring, and that may produce a dystocia during the labor, so that may ends with the cesarean. And the prognosis of recurrent miscarriage, the overall risk of recurrent miscarriage is about 25 to 30%, irrespective of the number of previous spontaneous miscarriage. The overall prognosis is good even without therapy. The chance for successful pregnancy is about 70 to 80% if we are doing the proper therapy. So far we have seen the abortion, types of abortion, and we have seen the cervical insufficiency or cervical incompetence, and we have seen the management of cervical incompetence also. Thank you for watching this video. See you soon with a new video. Bye.